Autobahn Crit Race, our first big race weekend as a team. Lots to unpack here. Lots of high moments, low moments, some drama, which we will talk about shortly. I made one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my cycling career. But before we get to that, let's talk about the men's 1-2-3 race. So this is actually my first elite road race. And here's the average power as well as the timeline. I just wanted to be in this race so that I could get a feel for it, try to hold people's wheels, conserve as much energy as possible, and to see if I could navigate a field sprint. Here's the map as well as the wind direction. You can see it's coming from the south. Everybody's really smart and sheltering on the left side of this track, and then pretty soon it'll shift over to the right side. There were a lot of big Chicago teams representing in this race, but I wanted to learn from guys like Ralph, and he's here on the left. He was here all by himself, but he knows how to navigate a field and position himself right where he needs to be right before that final corner. And so this is the last lap, and everybody's reshuffling, trying to fight for position, get their guys to the front where they need to be. And meanwhile, I'm just trying to figure out what to do with all of this noise. Things will speed up and slow down. You can see suddenly here, people just slow down for some reason, and I tag this guy's wheel. No big deal, life moves on. And then, of course, it speeds back up again. And I know that things get crowded here on the left side because people want to cover the inside line. And so I think, well, what if I just try going on the outside? Well, you'll see that that wasn't really a good idea. And I lose all my speed, and I have to do a really weak sprint to the finish line here. This was a seated sprint. This was all I could really give. There's this girl on the left, and she raced with the pro men and the 3-4 men, which is absolutely insane to me. And I finished 20th on this day, but Ralph came out with the win. Here's a picture of him celebrating at the front. Pretty incredible power to weight ratio that guy has. On to the 3-4 race. So here's the timeline as well as the average power. And one thing that was funny about this weekend is this is my fitness graph, and you can see that red line dipping so deep into the red. That's the lowest I've ever seen it. Lots of stress accumulated on this weekend. We got Louise in front of me here. I pull up next to him, and there's moments where it's pretty chill and we can chat. And this is the first time I've ever introduced myself to him.
Are you Louise? Yes, sir. You are a big dog, dude.
And I tell him he's a big dog. I know how much power this guy can produce. He's an absolute diesel. And I'm complimenting him. Exchange names and carry on our way. You'll see Lane on the left here, making up a lot of positions, trying to get towards the front. And there were really no breakaways that got away this weekend at all in like any of the races. And I think a lot of that is due to how open the course was and also how strong the winds were. Plus, you had a lot of these big diesel engines like Rage and Louise patrolling the front, making sure nothing got away. And there's Liz again on Fount Cycling, hanging with the boys. My job in this race was to keep an eye on the front, maybe even get into a breakaway, and if not, assemble at the front and be part of a lead-out train. None of those things really happened in this race. Another thing that I did a lot of in this race is try to find my teammates, communicate with them, see how they're feeling, and make sure that everybody knows what's going on. At one point here, Lane and Adam make a move off the front, and I decide I want part of that because I know these guys can push. And here I make a bridge, quickly get up to them. I'm so excited. I think that this is our chance to get away from the group, and we can just cruise to the finish line together and sort things out later.
Let's go.
We did a decent enough dig. I pulled from the front for a bit longer, but it quickly fell apart because the rest of the group was so committed to chasing down any breakaway attempt.
Got something? I think so.
And you can see us checking back, making sure that we're making progress, which we kind of are. We're able to stay away for like half a lap, but not nearly long enough to stay away. We notice here that a couple other guys join us. But right as we hit this corner, things just slowed down to a halt, and the peloton caught us pretty quickly afterwards. And that's where my work here was done. I was just going to soft pedal on the front for a little bit longer until a couple other guys overtake us and possibly send a counterattack, which hopefully my team would be able to respond with. That never actually ended up happening. People just kept the pace high, and we stayed together as a group for the remainder of the race.
That's good, Dick. That's good, Dick. Peloton wants this sprint. It's too bad. Yeah, it makes a short lap. Get ready for a counterattack. Yeah, on the tail end. Yeah.
And then, of course, we reshuffle. There's Liz again at the front. And Evolution Cycling was actually extremely organized on being on the front and making sure that they were ready to respond with whatever. And then at this point I say, I've had enough with being at the front. I'm just going to pull off and join the mid-pack and rest back there.
We got 9 minutes.
Here I'm talking to Cam. I'm saying that we have 9 minutes left, and maybe it's time to start thinking about getting towards the front and doing what we got to do to keep the pace high and make sure nobody tries anything funny. And then a quick check-in on John. He's got this gap covered.
Johnny. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And then what do you know, we get right to the front. And Cam actually keeps the pace really high for 2 laps to go. And I think the strategy here was to really demoralize people and dissuade anybody in trying to attack. And then I do a pull here myself. Parker tells me that I'm going a little too fast, and I respond by slowing down a little bit, but not too much. And then what do you know, Lane is behind me, and I tell him that we're trying to keep the pace as high as possible. If he wants to pull some turns, be my guest.
If you want to swap with us, please do.
And he responds with, I'm down. then I finally switch off with Parker, and this is when the rest of the group decides we've had enough, we want to be at the front. And so we kind of just let them. And this is the final lap. And I'm thinking this is pretty good because I can sit behind John, Cam, and Parker might sit in behind me, but we'll all find each other at some point. And we really have to assemble right before that final corner where we can launch. And then I see this gap open up, which was kind of scary. But then I get on John's wheel, I let him know that I'm there and that he's got to do the job of leading me out.
Give me everything you got, John!
And John gives me this little concerning leg shake, and I'm worried that I think his quads are cramping up. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see this attack happen, and that's when I spring on it. And I accelerate really hard, and this is where the biggest mistake happens. I bump Louise, and he almost falls, puts his foot down, his teammate goes down. You can see it again here. I am just way too close for comfort, and I bump his elbow. That causes his wheel to go one direction and his body to go the other direction. Now I know it seems obvious, like I should have just went a little bit further to the left, but when you pass people, you try to just sneak past them, and you don't want to go all the way out into the wind and potentially cut someone else off. But I totally misjudged my spacing between me and him. And man, I watched this clip like 50 times in a row, every time coming to the same conclusion. I just messed up. I got my spacing wrong. I tried sprinting in a straight line. I couldn't divert course soon enough, and the rest is history. I can see how from some people's perspective this looks like I intentionally shoulder bumped him, but that just isn't the case. I'd really tried hard to sneak past him once when I realized it was too late. It looks like a nudge, but it's more of just a reactionary flinch. I still got a lot to learn. I learned a ton from this race and this weekend. This is why we do it, because it's so much fun. There's a little bit of risk involved. And even though there's no money on the line, it's such a rewarding sport. I met up with Louise right after the race, and I took full accountability. I apologize. And he was so cool about it. He let me know that these things happen, not to worry about it. It's going to happen to all of us. And he said he appreciated that I took accountability. I need to also apologize to Rage as well as Kareem, who were both affected by that incident. I truly did not want this to happen. It was very embarrassing on my end, not only for me, but also the team. And then here's a final look at that sprint. Again, not the strongest sprint, but I am out in the wind just eating air. And then Adam Ostrowski comes around me on the left side. And then another guy from Evolution right at the last second beat me for second place. And you could see there, shaking my head, very disappointed with myself on this day. But that was the weekend. Like I said, lots of high moments and a very big low moment for me. I had so much fun. I love this sport. I can't wait for the rest of the summer. I will see you guys in those future races, and I will do better.